Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Nerd Glasses podcast. I'm Boater.
I'm Dave, man.
And we're getting some of the kinks worked out because it's the first episode and there's logistical things that happened.
And the camera turned on and Boater bailed on the bit.
I bailed on you never confirmed that we were doing the bit, to be fair.
You sure know that I don't ever bail on a bit.
We can do it in the future. What's
I
the bit? Tune in next week for episode 2 and see what the bit is. But we have a full hour of fun, cool stuff ahead of us today. Dave, do you want to take the reins as we get started out here?
Sure. Welcome, everyone, as I now adjust some logistics. Sounds like things have happened, lol, says CJ. I know, and it's only episode 1. Welcome, everyone, to the Nerd Glasses podcast. They can see it, we just can't.
I hit the TV just a little bit.
We are very fortunate that we're going to be talking about nerddom, fandoms, and other dumbs that will be covered under. But we will not be discussing a lot of things you might hear on other fantastical programs, because I today get to tell you, the viewing audience, and you, the boater, that next week is the official. The gavel has come down. The chief has spoken. Insane Games TV and all of its subsidiary programs launch next week. That means that you will get episode 2 of your favorite program on Insane Games TV, Nerd Glasses. You'll get another episode of The Weekend Wednesday. You're going to have our friend of this program, AC Wheezy on Twitch, who holds it down on, my God, days and days on these programs. But you can look forward to the No Look podcast from familiar face and familiar host Tyler, talking video games, sports, lifting, and life. The L's. But not taking any in life. We've got Behind the Counter, which will have a very interesting rotation of hosts and things like that. The ever-present Dan. And my vote is ever-present Mike, but that's but neither here nor there. Speaking of Mike, we will have the dream team of Mike and Tom on every Tuesday. We're talking video games, sports, and whatever happens to come on the top of their heads. Come? All right, I'll do my own bits myself.
Wow, cool. Thank you.
We will also have a weekly wrestling podcast hosted by Dan and Tyler called Ring the Bell. Make sure to tune in for that. They'll be discussing WWE, AEW, TNA if it makes it, and the UFC. TNA's already actually dead, so Impact Wrestling. We've got a bunch of other programs that, my goodness, I couldn't even get into. Super Batista Bros. My God, the schedule just goes on. Galagros Gaming.
So are these all
Insane
going
Games
live next week?
Next week. Make sure you are liking here. And, by the way, Mr. Wet gives the cum, LOL.
Last week I was told, it'll be a soft rollout week after week, and now it's just like, nope, it's happening. Well, next week, it's happening.
Fortunately,
we're going hard into December with the Insane Games TV lineup.
Dan has been very kind to everybody, and now everyone's kind of doing the and so it's we're doing it. I also want to mention Monday Night Gaming with AC Wheezy, Retro Monday, Duty Calls, Cheeks or Glory. Make sure to get your likes in now so that you get front row and preferential treatment for these coming programs. I literally cannot talk to you about how excited I am for this, because these are people.
There's so much cool stuff.
Exactly.
Like, it is solid programming, wall to wall, across at least 7 hours a day, longer on the weekends. It's crazy how much stuff there is coming on Insane Games TV. I'm so psyched for it.
The best part about these programs is it's not just going to be, Dave and Boater hosting this, Dave and Boater doing this, Dave and Boater doing that. We have a diverse cast of peoples that you might recognize from past episodes.
If you're a constant
watched Insane Games TV.
Yeah, if you were a constant viewer behind the counter, then yes, these people are going to be coming back. But that's not all we're going to be seeing all week, every week. We have so many new people that are going to be new to the Insane Games family that are coming in. A ton of people bringing some fantastic programming too. Yes, we're going to see those familiar faces, but there's going to be a ton of really new, fresh stuff, fresh things to talk about.
You know what I am kind of excited for next week especially? Right after this program finishes, the new program to Insane Games TV that's going to be starting, Floss with Ross. Do you think you're good at Fortnite? Well, I'm going to look at you right in the camera and I'm going to tell you, no you're not.
No.
You're not as good as our friend here.
You're bad and you should feel bad. We love you.
You're bad, and you should feel bad. And Luke Ross is going to show you how bad you are on Floss with Ross starting next Tuesday. Fortnite, fandoms, and getting some W's. Auntie, welcome to the program. Great to see more from the store. I know, and I literally cannot gush enough, and I've been talking about this for months on DAM 314. These programs are going to be the things that you're going to remember. But Boater, I know you're asking yourself, where can I watch these if I miss it on Twitch? And I'll tell you.
I'm so wondering. Actually, I'm not, but I'm happy to set it up for you.
You can watch it at Insane Games TV _ That's the Twitch channel.
Yep. So if you're in the Twitch app, you're going to search Insane Games TV _.
Yep. If you search insanegames.tv, we'll come right up. We'll be there for you.
If you're on desktop, instead of trying to go to Twitch and finding the channel, just go to insanegames.tv in your browser. It will redirect right to our Twitch page.
But let's just say you are walking along and suddenly someone comes up the side of your head with a pipe wrench and you miss your favorite Insane Games program because you're going to have a lot of those and you're going to want to watch them.
Dave, is that a threat?
It's not a threat.
Should I be careful on my way home?
It's a promise. Oh, God. You will watch my friends do things, or I will come to your homes and I will poop in a place that will make you question your set. No, I'm kidding.
Link actually works. I know. I checked it. Yes.
But if you miss your favorite programs, you can head right over to YouTube, and the link is down below, by the way. And you can see recaps and posts of all of those episodes right after they go live. Some of them are going to be edited in the future. Preemptive thank you to Steve, and also preemptive, hurry up, Steve!
I thought that was applause. I was like, good job, Steve. Oh, no, come on, chop.
Nope, and we will get exclamation point Steve as a prompt in here because we all know whose fault it is if you follow at DAM314. CJ Playmaker already pitching for the program. Hit the bell icon on your app
somewhere
for you to be immediately notified when the stream goes live for both at DAM314 and Insane Games TV. Well, thank you very much for pitching me. I should also talk about who we are, because a lot of you are regulars from our programs, but for those of you watching this program that are new from Insane Games TV, hello, welcome. Would you like to go first, since I've now talked for a good god amount of information, time?
I would be happy to. Hi everyone, I'm Boater or Boaterbug on basically every piece of social media across the internet or Weber sphere, with the exception of Snapchat because I am too old for Snapchat. Also TikTok.
I'm on Snapchat though.
I am, youtube.com/Boaterbug is where you can find most of my things. I do a lot of Let's Plays. In fact, tomorrow on Wednesday is the finale episode of Recore with our friend Dave here. It is not a good game, but you can go to my channel and see previous episodes for everything that we had to say about it. A lot of really interesting discussion on that topic. I also do short films. I did a gear review that came out earlier this week. I do a lot of video-y stuff, so that all goes up on youtube.com/Boaterbug. And if you want to follow us social media, it is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.com/Boaterbug. Facebook and Twitter, I will post when things go live on YouTube. Instagram has behind the scenes, as well as when I go on a kick for doing pearly beads and other crafts. Gets a little schizophrenic up in here, but that's fine. As far as Insane Games TV is concerned, on the lineup, I am here every Tuesday at 7:30 for the Nerd Glasses podcast, where you are currently right now. And also on Thursdays, starting next week with this Wham Bam Thank You Ma'am rollout of Insane Games TV, I will be hosting The Citadel at 8 p.m. on Thursdays, and that is where we look at games that have kind of not hit a big note. Not the games that were awful, not the games that were great, but games like Record that are still fine, but we talk about them. Why didn't they get so big? What could they have done better? While also me probably shouting at the TV and wanting to throw a controller. Who knows if I keep my composure? We'll find out Thursdays, 8 p.m. at the Citadel. Dave, what about you?
I am lucky enough to be a part of this particular program, the Nerd Glasses podcast. You will remember that every Wednesday live here at the Insane Games studio for the last 2 years has been the Weekend Wednesday. Fear not! For I begged and pleaded with Dan, and he did not only not smote my program, but he promoted it to a Wednesday position on Insane Games TV and at DAM314 at twitch.tv. But I am also going to be appearing every Sunday, starting around 3 p.m. and going until 6, Sundave service. It's going to be a catch-all for the Weekend Wednesday if I'm playing a single-player game, because God knows I never finish those games. But I'm going to use that as that time, and I'm also going to be doing a lot of, honestly, wellness, self-care, things like that. Because it's important
for that Sunday morning,
and a lot of people do not talk about it. We tweet about it, and we give thumbs up to each other and hearts and likes. But I'm going to be talking about various things you can do to help yourself, and or doing some relaxation things in the moment. Some streams will be a little bit awkward because there might be some times where you tune in and I'm sitting a la Zenyatta, and then spending the rest of the program trying to get my legs uncrossed. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
If I need to stop by the store with a sledgehammer in order to get your legs uncrossed, I'll do it.
CJ,
please let me.
Catching Sunday service now because the Bills play on Thursday this week, and they're facing the Cowboys, and that is the most football talk we're doing this week because Boder might get a stigmata if we continue to talk football. It physically hurts
Y'all
him.
Got so many other programs for that.
When we talk. And by the way,
the nonverbal part of the pitch for Nerd Glasses podcast was anything but football, please.
You know what? I do want to say though, if you're not a sports ball person, but you are curious about sports ball, absolutely. These last couple of weeks, I've been tuning in to Monday Night Gaming with AC Weezy, live at Insane Games TV. That man breaks down key games, key elements, and then goes into fantasy football. What players are hot, what players aren't, things like that. And he uses the visuals, he uses the statistics, uses all these things to make it so that people like me who enjoy the sports ball, but don't really understand it very well, have an understanding and can carry on a conversation. He also blessedly responds to my jokes in chat, so it's a win-win.
Okay.
So, a lot of things have been happening in gaming these days, and Boder and I discussed about 1.5 billion things that we could talk about on the inaugural episode,
but we narrowed it down to a few from the past month or so. And I think we're gonna start out with a couple games that have come out recently. Dave, I still see you playing Pokemon Go on your phone.
Oh, yes.
Which most of the world has moved past, although granted it's still a strong game and still has quite the view. And that's clearly the premier way to play Pokemon. Clearly nothing could top that, and yet they tried. There was a new Pokemon game this past week, wasn't there?
They tried real hard to make a new Pokemon game.
And did they?
Personally, I don't own it,
okay,
but I have watched enough people on Twitch play it. I have seen enough people pro and con of it. They did make another main story Pokemon game. In a lot of cases, it's not what people who have been playing it for now 20 years wanted. But guess what? Wasn't really aimed at you. Not gonna lie.
I've heard. Obviously, the big thing that people had problems with is that there is no way to get full Pokedex. There are Pokemon that just don't appear in it. But there's actually not a lot of people, like a lot of people that play the game don't go for full Pokedex. Yes, gotta catch 'em all is kind of the tagline of the series, but that's not how people played. A lot of people would just gather stuff within the one game. They wouldn't worry about trading with people from previous generations.
Also, isn't it super like out of meta to like be walking around and being like, there should be this Pokemon here, and all the other trainers are like, what is that? And you're like,
Yeah.
like, super broken game when you suddenly have a Ekans in Sword and Shield, and everyone literally is like, the hell is that? Like,
So on its own merits, not what people wanted from it, not what the controversy was, what have you heard about Pokemon Sword and Shield? I was watching a friend stream it last week. She was having a ton of fun with it. Like I was only on for like maybe a half an hour. She was like basically just farming in tall grass, doing a bunch of combats, but it was clearly she was playing a Pokemon game. It is a main series. You have 6 Pokemon in your team. And you know, just grinding and leveling them up, getting teams together. Like, it's a Pokemon game. It's a main series. It's Generation 8, 7. I don't even know.
it certainly is.
It's a main series Pokemon game, and from what I've heard, I think that it's standing well on its own merits. Because it's they kind of pared down the features a little bit, but kept adding new things too. And people are like, I didn't ask for this. In 3 generations, people are like, I can't imagine the game without this. It's kind of what Pokemon's been doing every generation.
A YouTuber, well, an online personality that I like a lot, Jim
An internet
Sterling.
person, TM.
Yeah.
Yes, Jim Sterling, okay.
Jim Sterling. I really enjoy his reviews, but he kind of hit it on the head when he said that, you know, Pokemon has kind of become the Nintendo Dynasty Warriors. If it's if that's the kind of thing you like, you're gonna like it. But if you're looking for a game that's gonna totally reinvent itself time and time and time again, you're just not gonna find it in that way and in that regard. It's just not going to happen.
Agreed. Dan? He'll be able to help you out. So we are broadcasting live from Insane Games in the Wilton Mall, and we are at the moment open. So
Sounds totally not like a gym thing.
That was a thing that just happened.
But again, I personally kind of agreed with the overarching theme of it, not the quality of games. Being that, you know, last year's St. Jude's punishment was playing Dynasty Warriors 9 for 12 hours. God bless you, Joe.
Yeah, so like playing Pokemon wouldn't be a punishment in the same way that playing the latest Dynasty Warriors was for you. But there are people that aren't into the Pokemon formula, and for them it would be. Mainline Pokemon games are a formula, much like Dynasty Warriors is a formula. And here's an interesting thing since you bring that up. Dynasty Warriors is such a formula that they're able to bring that to other settings, to other licenses. Legend of Zelda obviously comes to mind with Hyrule Warriors. There have been plenty of other examples as well. When does the Pokemon formula begin moving to other licenses? When do we start seeing a Metroid game with Samus gathering a whole bunch of little things?
I will ever so subtly mention to the fact that if you play a mobile game based upon a Nintendo intellectual property or Harry Potter Wizarding World, technically Pokemon Go has
if you play
created
an AR mobile game, yes, Niantic had it previously with their game that predated Pokemon Go that I can't think of. Ingress predated Pokemon Go, and Pokemon Go runs on its database. But again, Go was the thing that catapulted it and said, this is how we're doing AR gaming. And so, yeah, actually, that's a good point. It is not the main generation, the mainline Pokemon formula, but it is a way that Pokemon has influenced gaming in other settings and other genres.
While we're talking about, I'm gonna say something very controversial here. Pokemon, Jade Cocoon did it first. Jade Cocoon did it better.
I was going to do the how could you say something so brave yet so controversial, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
And that's okay. Those of you that know, you know. Jade Cocoon got screwed. It only got a second title on the PlayStation 2. It was bad. I was mad. And then I lost my copy of Jade Cocoon for the PlayStation. And so I need a new one.
Dave, do you need a hug?
Yes, several.
Okay.
Several and at all times.
It'll be okay. Shall we move on to Jedi Fallen Order?
I mean, we can, but we're going to get a hug counter. That'll be the next thing.
That was also an awkward hug because that was just my ass at the camera. For
Good.
like, hi! Okay, so another recent release.
Getting them
weeks
follows.
ago. We know what you're here for. Wasn't that. Another new release was Jedi Fallen Order. Star Wars game that came out about a week and a half ago. Came out 2 Fridays ago. This is something that we're definitely had been looking forward to because it follows a Padawan around after the Jedi Purge, someone who was trying to lie low, but of course, here comes the call to adventure, and you're not allowed to just ignore that. It is time to do something. So I haven't played Jedi Fallen Order, but as opposed to Pokemon, where neither of us played about it but talked authoritatively on it somehow for 10 minutes, Dave, you played Jedi Fallen Order on the weekend Wednesday last week, didn't you?
I did.
You had quite the crew with you too. I tuned in. I'm like, all right, Dave's playing with group with 6 people. This is Twitch Plays Jedi Fallen Order, apparently.
I liked it. Gameplay wise, fantastic. Visually, it's a Star Wars thing, so of course it has its universe, and yet there are intricate details in everything. The game also had pot smashing. Because God knows when you walk into any room, if there's pottery, you should be able to break it. And you can. So that $60 purchase just right out the door. I will say
if I can cause more in property damage in the first 2 minutes than I spent on the game, it's a good investment.
Anti-Klaus Prime saying so good because EA did not meddle with it.
So, EA is still the publisher on that, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so, I mean, it still has the hallmarks. I'm pretty sure that's still running the Frostbite engine that Battlefront 2...
Unreal Engine 4.
Unreal 4?
Actually.
Okay, wow, that's really surprising, because, EA went so far as to dictate to BioWare that they need to use the Frostbite engine on Mass Effect Andromeda. And that didn't go well. They're basically, here's our in-house engine, use it. So the fact that it runs on Unreal, Anti-Klaus Prime, thank you very much for the tip there, that's actually really surprising to me. And I think that as much as it's published by EA, they were they definitely learned from the massive backlash over Battlefront 2 to take a few steps back and say, here's your money. We're still going to have some requests and some demands, but we're not going to be massively overt about it. To that end, it is a single-player game.
Yes.
There's not multiplayer, am I correct?
Not insofar, and nothing announced.
Okay. They may come out with a multiplayer mode later on, but it is a single-player game.
Yes. Auntie also mentions that Respawn
Don't give me that look.
Entertainment,
That was applause.
who developed it, did start this project before EA bought them.
Okay.
So this was something that the wheels were already in motion, and EA just had a lot of money to throw behind it.
But we could have gotten Star Wars 1313. Gosh darn it.
I will say the only thing I did not like out of the 4 hours I got out of the gameplay of it is this. The storytelling.
There you go.
The storytelling element did not help itself to endear to the main character to me at all.
It is really hard to enjoy playing a game when you have zero sympathy for the protagonist.
Kel is dumb. And I mean, and I understand why they had to do that, because if you started the game with all the powers, there would be no challenge building up. But at the same time, the man is a junker, and he's running around this planet and doing all these backflips and stuff like that. Why can he not remember to wall run?
Until probably the second level, the second area,
Yep,
something like that.
And suddenly he just all of a sudden is oh yeah, that training that got drilled into my head.
So unfortunately, that's one of the things that is in games like this, in that you need to start at zero. Even though this guy, is he in his late teens, early 20s?
You know,
Do you want to hazard a guess?
I don't even want to hazard my guess.
Let's
but
call
knowing
him 20
that
so that Americans can be like, tee-hee, if he ever has a drink on there. So let's say he's 20 or something. He's been a Padawan since, he's a couple years old. He should know things.
It's 5 years after the Great Jedi Purge.
Okay, but that doesn't tell me when he was born.
But you are a Star Wars person, and you know when Padawans typically age-wise are.
Well, yeah, Padawans are brought into the Order at 2 years old or something. If that, they could be younger than that.
So Cal is between 7 and 20.
So the thing is that, yes, story-wise, he should absolutely have all this knowledge of how to do things. But gameplay-wise, you need to start him at 0. And the only game I've seen that even bothers to try to do something with that was Fable, which starts you off as a little kid, and you start to learn your stuff, and you grow up, and you become old as you get your experience and everything like that. That's the only game that's tried to do that. Otherwise, you just kind of accept that I'm starting at 0.
Or I like you can't run into the Uncharted way of storytelling, where you're in the middle of a thing. What you have is what you have, and that's what you use during the beginning of it. But the problem is, a lot of the things that he uses are Jedi powers and things like that, and so you can't just
progression trees and unlocks and stuff like that. I like it when it's gear. I haven't played Uncharted, but I played I played Tomb Raider and the second Tomb Raider, the rebooted Tomb Raider games, and I really like that because it's gear. It's building your basic bow and then upgrading it with scrap and everything like that, and you get new skills because you have the gear to be able to do those skills.
Yeah.
Mirror's Edge Catalyst, I liked when it gave you new gear in your progression trees. I didn't like when it was skill upgrades. It's a skill vault, so you take less damage after a long fall. Someone doing parkour should learn that the first lesson. That shouldn't be, skill upgrades in a progression tree always bother me. Now, one thing that we compared this to a bit is that this game is sort of this decade's The Force Unleashed. The Force Unleashed came out 12 years ago, I'm going to say. It might have been 11 years ago. It might have been 08, I think. And in it, you are Vader's pupil, and you have very basic Force powers to start off with, very basic lightsaber, whatever. And as you keep playing, Cal is blind as vanilla with vanilla sauce on it. Yes, very true. And I didn't like Starkiller either. Starkiller, I kind of had the dull surprise, I guess we're doing a thing now. But you're starting more or less at 0. But the thing is that in Force Unleashed, the powers that you get are so cartoonishly overpowered that I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah.
Does that carry over to Fallen Order? That's a no. I watched you playing a bit, and actually, here's the thing. Remember how we talked about how the Pokemon formula could be brought elsewhere?
Mm-hmm.
I had heard it, and then watching you totally confirm this for me. Jedi Fallen Order is taking the Dark Souls formula and bringing that into Star Wars. Because it is this adventuring thing where you can, yes, level up your skills and your equipment and everything like that. You get this little droid that can heal you a certain number of times, the same as you have a limited number of Estus flasks, and you go around killing stuff. And when you rest at a fire in Dark Souls, or when you meditate at whatever you meditate at in Jedi Fallen Order, in Dark Souls you get more of your Estus flasks back. And the monsters respawn. And in Fallen Order, you get your healing back, and the monsters respawn. And you're able to use that to your advantage to grind, or if you're trying to progress, you can say, all right, cool, I killed that stuff back there, and I don't have to worry about it right now, but I'm running low on health. Do I bother sitting here and getting more chances to heal while also having to fight through all this stuff again? And that intrigues me, because as much as I was awful at the game, I was so bad. Please look up Twitch highlights on my YouTube channel of me playing Dark Souls 3 during the first St. Jude Play Live I did. It was awful. I had fun playing it because I was playing it for an audience, and I think wearing Star Wars clothes, I think that I would really enjoy that too. And I guess to try to keep drawing it with Dark Souls, in Dark Souls your character doesn't have personality. That's not a thing. It's not they're really bland. It's no, they are a tabula rasa. You're this class, and that's it.
Yep.
So I guess we'll see how trying to put story and personality on top of that gameplay goes. But I
Well,
like
the
that
difference
basic
is
gameplay.
in Dark Souls, your actions define your character.
Yeah.
There are some bosses that you can choose not to kill. There are some optional things, and you choose how to be, either this nebulous, omnipotent destroyer or this crafty person. Whereas in a Star Wars game, you have to have that plot thread to carry through the thing.
Okay.
So I personally, as much as, and if you watch back the stream highlight, I immediately, when they killed something, I looked over at CJ, who thankfully was on the stream and let me borrow his copy of the game because I do not have $60 every week, 4 times a week to buy new games yet. But they're like, this person died, and I literally went loud, oh no, not this person I've developed such a strong attachment to, or the robot assistant when it suddenly comes up where I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's been very suspicious of everything. Why would he not just boot that thing straight into the abyss?
Right.
But, if you were a fan of Star Wars lore, Star Wars things, or just a game where you have a weapon and you swack your way through a lot of things, get it. Buy Jedi Fallen Order. Also, if you like single-player games, this is your chance to prove to EA that they can and they will sell.
Yeah.
This is God of War backing up and proving it. Did you notice EA really didn't spend a lot of money on advertising this game?
I kind of did.
I think that there might be. I know Auntie said this in chat, but it brings along the idea that EA kind of wants to turn around and go, well, internet, game didn't sell very well, and yet it is. It is selling very well. It's flying off the shelves.
Good.
There are empty displays for that game literally everywhere, and it's not because they're hiding the copies in the back like other games. Call of Duty.
You good? You good?
I mean, there was something crap stuck in my throat.
There's something immoral.
Immoral.
There's something immoral stuck in your throat, Dave. Really? Is there anything you want? Never mind.
Boo.
Okay. While it's still at least slightly topical, I think we got to talk BlizzCon.
Gladly.
Or at least in talking about Blizzard, certainly from before BlizzCon. Do you want to talk about what Blizzard was up to in the lead up to BlizzCon and what everyone was kind of keeping an eye on?
In regards to the controversy?
Yes.
With the channel, or the non-hair apology. That's a gimmick we're going to get into with it, but let's see. Let me pull up some concrete information so I can say what it is.
Yeah.
The Hearthstone Grandmasters Championship was going on, and a esports competitor who goes by the screen name Blitzchung. I would love to try to pronounce his name, but I, as an American, do not use the
vowels,
the vowel sounds or things like that. So it is NGWAI Chung is his actual name, but his screen name is Blitzchung.
Yeah, yep.
Won, and at the end of the thing, some interviewers were talking to him, and he ended the interview by putting on a gas mask and eye covering reminiscent of protesters in Hong Kong, and said, "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our age." The interviewers who were on a split screen sort of thing, scrooched down, but were still present and did have knowledge that he was going to say that.
Yeah.
A couple of Blizzard then immediately suspended him for an entire year.
And let me trace this back a little bit. What's going on in Hong Kong is pro-democracy.
Yes, please get into, because I'm not...
I'm not super filled in on it, but the broad strokes are pro-democracy protests against, the totalitarian Chinese regime. And in China owns, everything. There's not necessarily... Tencent is a huge firm that is not just gaming, but as far as we're concerned, it owns gaming type stuff. And it is owned by, maybe not necessarily owned by the Chinese government, but certainly beholden to it. And so when something in Blizzard happens that is anti-Chinese, it reflects on Blizzard. It reflects on Activision, which owns Blizzard. It's not a partnership. Activision owns Blizzard. We're all very sad about this. Move on. And part owner of Activision is Tencent, which is beholden to the Chinese government above that. And somewhere up the line, there was either a direct commandment or just the fear of reprisal to then go in and revoke his winnings and enact a 1-year or 12-month ban from playing the game competitively in Blizzard-sanctioned events.
Also firing both of the
and
host
firing
casters.
the interviewers
Yes.
that knew that he was going to do that and didn't dissuade him from that. But I would say good on them for letting him do that, standing up like that. But anyway. So that was a thing, and the internet was like, that's really rotten. Knowing that at least a little bit of the background there. Hey, Kid Icarus Kid, welcome to the podcast. We're talking serious stuff. So the internet backlashed, because the internet's really good at backlash. And Blizzard was like, okay, we might have been maybe a little bit trigger happy there. Tell you what, we'll walk that back to a 6-month ban. And I think he got his winnings back.
He did receive the
He did
full
end up
allotment of
receiving
money
his
back.
winnings. But it was still it's still a 6-month ban for something that shouldn't, there's always the stick to the game. People say stick to talking about video games, stick to playing your game, stay in your lane, stick to sports, which we'll get to in a bit. And ignoring the wider world as though things don't have an effect. People that are playing in Eastern Asia, this is something that may not directly affect them yet, but it is close to home, and it's something that, when we have, a singer talk about an epidemic in Africa or something like that, we're not telling them to stick to music. So it was this very, kind of thing where people were still very upset with Blizzard. And that brings us to BlizzCon. And I think, does that bring us to our format yet? I'll say what happened.
Yeah, let's talk about our format to get into it, so we don't move away from the discussion at hand.
Let me say what happened at the beginning of BlizzCon, before they even they opened the doors and people came in, but before they formally were like, hey, here's our cool stuff, we're Blizzard and we got some awesome stuff for you. Before then, the CEO of Blizzard, I believe, I may be wrong about who did this, but I'm pretty sure, the head honcho of Blizzard, came out and said, there were protesters outside. He said, this is what happened. This, we are sorry. This is what we are going to do in the future.
So you would want him to say all of those things?
He definitely, as I recall,
he breezed around a lot of subjects, used a lot of broad stroke terms, and accepted responsibility for the things that he broad stroked over. Saying specifically, we acted...
do you have a transcript?
We acted too quickly. Let me pull up...
because we do want to talk about this a bit, and we should be acting with a full transcript up here. And Anti-Klaus, we'll get to the nature of, was it an apology, or was it, I'm sorry you feel that way, whatever. We'll get to that in a moment, because we kind of have a thing that we want to try out with it, but I do want to get the actual thing.
Oh, for God's sake.
Are you okay? Are you having fun? Things that we should have had prepped ahead of time.
I don't think there is a direct transcript of it.
Okay, cool. So you had a partial thing.
One of them was, we didn't live up to our standards we set for ourselves. We failed in our purpose. Did not go into specifics about what that is. And for that, I am sorry, and I accept responsibility. he didn't mention.
No, he didn't specifically. Okay, so let's go into the format to talk about this apology and Blizzard's response. Sound good?
Yeah.
So this format that we keep talking about is something that we like to call Bendy's Advocate. If you're familiar with some of the streams that we've done in the past, we played Bendy and the Ink Machine. We still haven't finished the game. We need to do that at some point.
Yeah.
But basically, little cartoon demon guy that scares the bejesus out of Dave. And I was going to have a little plushie
Found
here.
a direct transcript.
You found a direct transcript. Cool. I'll explain the format first. Basically, one of us is going to be on one side of talking about this, and one of us will be on the other side. In the future, we're going to have either a little plushie or pop Bendy to kind of pass around. But in this case, where it's a devil's advocate kind of thing, so whoever is holding Bendy will be, in this case, advocating for, well, Blizzard did the right thing, and they did everything that they could. So I guess right now we'll kind of reverse that. We have with us a Boris the Wolf pop figure, and this will represent whoever is not Bendy. We'll get an actual Bendy plush or something in the future that we can keep here. But let's start with a full transcript, because Dave, I believe at least to start, you will be defending Blizzard and their stance here.
His transcript exactly is... Blizzard had the opportunity to bring the world together in a tough Hearthstone esports moment about a month ago, and we did not. We moved too quickly in our decision making, and then, to make matters worse, we were too slow to talk with all of you. When I think about what I am most unhappy about, there's really two things. The first one is that we did not live up to our high standards that we really set for ourselves. The second is that we failed in our purpose, and for that, I am sorry, and I accept accountability. He had some pauses for effect and things like that, as any president in a company would. Yep. But you want me to defend Blizzard's suspension of...
Yeah, so
I don't... I will disclaimer this. Boder and I are just going to flip a coin, and so whoever gets pro, whoever gets con. Yeah. I don't personally believe that Blitzchung should have gotten anything other than...
I think what we'll do, because the whole advocate thing is as though it's a court, whatever, at the end we render a verdict. And certainly I think we know ahead of time what the verdict is, but let's try this in the court of the Nerd Glasses podcast.
All right. So, 2 days after the Hearthstone event, Blizzard issued a ruling. Blitzchung's message on the stream violated a section of the Grandmaster's rules, a contract that he directly signed knowing that he was going to play Hearthstone for Blizzard on this program and things like that. And it specifically states, engaging in any act that, in Blizzard's sole discretion, brings you into public disrepute, offends a portion or group of the public, or otherwise damages Blizzard's image, can be enacted upon. So, by Blitzchung going during a victory lap talking about the Hearthstone event, which in and of itself is a closed-off entity, bringing a real-world issue into it in a divisive way, in only expressing one particular viewpoint, whether it is one you agree with or not, is something that if you work for any large company, you're going to get in trouble, and there's going to be consequences. When you sign on the dotted line with Blizzard Entertainment, when you sign on the dotted line with Insane Games, when you sign on the dotted line with Hallmark, Disney, which now owns pretty much everything, probably including Hallmark.
But not Insane Games yet.
You are accepting that you are being branded by a corporate entity, and you are representing that corporate entity, and therein, your opinions to be expressed during their programs aren't yours to be expressed.
I want to jump in now, because I admit that because of that in Blizzard's sole discretion thing, Blizzard had every right to be able to do what they did. I would argue that what Blitzchung did not, in fact, make Blizzard look bad to anyone except their Tencent Chinese overlords. But just because you have the recourse to be able to do something does not mean that you should. Anyone at Blizzard should have looked at that and said that by doing that, that is a much worse look for Blizzard than Blitzchung speaking up. I'm setting aside for now the fact that Blitzchung is talking about basic human rights, democracy, the right to be treated fully human as an individual, which, by the way, framing it as a Hearthstone thing and not the Hong Kong discussion event, very disingenuous. By doing what they did, the first thing it did was that Blizzard doesn't care about human rights. It's Kanye saying George W. Bush doesn't care about black people, and like by basically saying, oh yes, this person is standing up for human rights and we won't stand for that, it makes Blizzard look so bad. Like clearly, more than an individual player saying something, by banning him, that makes the entirety of Blizzard take the opposite stance. And no matter what that stance is, when someone takes a stance and the entirety of Blizzard bans him for doing that, Blizzard has taken the opposite stance and really like violated their own terms that this guy signed more than he did himself.
The only issue I take with your point is corporate entities do not care about the individual, and individual life, flourishing or not, does not affect a corporate entity like that. Adidas, Nike, a bunch of other ones all outsource small labor to countries where they can pay people pennies, fractions of the pennies on the pennies, and they don't necessarily have to face the reality of by choosing to by taking notice of anything that said that there is a deeper meaning to it. They are a corporate entity that just says you did A, we're going to do this, no matter what he had of said.
Something like that. The most that Nike has to run into is if one of their models for like a marketing campaign ends up speaking up, then they just drop them from the campaign. And yes, there can be backlash against that too, but not to the same effect because, like, yes, they're hiring someone to do this. I mean, I can kind of see it, but that's also doesn't quite make it right. Like, they might drop them from the public face of the campaign and maybe, like, still give them a payout. One thing that they could have done here, Anti-Klaus says that, yes, Blizzard was in their right, otherwise there could be legal actions or whatever. Blizzard could have just been like, shh, 1 month.
The some statistics that I will back up the fact that they had to act in a big way is that, as you mentioned, as it's seemingly a negative point, but it really is a more of a positive. Blizzard is 5% owned by a company called Tencent. So that means that a company that has to rule and be adhered by the Chinese government may not necessarily want to have one of their intellectual properties making them look bad.
Okay, but what about the other 95% of the owners? Like, surely they should get a right to be like, oh yeah, no, I think that we shouldn't speak out against the person who's speaking up about basic human rights.
That be as it may, but the idea is also that Blizzard has put a lot of money into esports, be it Heroes of the Storm,
they have.
Overwatch.
Yep. They've been really good for esports, I admit.
Esports is huge business in China, and I cannot believe I just said that out loud. And there are analytical reports stating that the sport could be worth as much as $3 billion as the government moves to recognize it in China alone as a profession, as a professional sport. Things like that. And when you take shots at at a larger entity, and the middleman, which would be Blizzard in this case, doesn't say anything about it. They, as a corporate entity who have a bottom line and who have to rationalize their actions and things like that, have to explain it back to the board. Well, how come we lost out on potential untold billions of dollars in this Chinese market? Oh, well, one guy mouthed off on a program, and we decided not to say anything about it because we wanted to be
Okay,
friends.
so hold on. Why did we lose so much on this other market? Because one guy mouthed off when we decided to drop the ban hammer in opposition of basic human rights. Ultimately, you need to pick your battles. And
True.
some battles could have been chosen to a little better than that.
Now, I see what you're saying, and I see your passion, and I appreciate it. But at the same time, let us not forget that the president did issue an apology. He did acknowledge and take responsibility for it. And not only that, but they then, in response to the backlash, gave the earnings back and halved his suspension, which is a piecemeal way as a corporate entity to reach out to satisfy both ends on a way that doesn't, although kind of dropping my face here, those two dudes are still fired.
So I do want to wrap this up because there's a couple other things from BlizzCon we got to talk about. We can leave our other topics until next week, but I do want to say, yes, he said all the right things with the apology. It was an apology.
It was a corporate apology.
It was a beautifully scripted corporate apology. You can teach a master class with that apology. It said all the right things, but it was words. And you know what speaks louder than words? Actions. Rehiring those two announcers or hosts, unbanning or at least basically turning a 6-month ban into a slap on the wrist.
Yep.
Esports, the window to be competitive in esports is very small, maybe smaller than physical sports because of reaction times and everything like that. The window of your life to be relevant with that, a half-year suspension is a long time.
Oh, yes.
Not as long as a year, but we can only take Blizzard at the word now.
Yes.
And they were strong words, but we have no further actions to back it up. And people are going to be pushing Blizzard's boundaries now. Because they see 5% Daddy Tencent poking in. And they're ready to keep poking those boundaries. And what will really matter is if their actions follow those words.
Yes.
Follow what was said. Do you have anything more to add? I think we're good on that.
In regards to it, I did kind of drop the argument pro Blizzard suspending Blitzchung. Personally, again, I do not agree with Blizzard's actions, nor their motivations. I think that they were more than a little bit shallow in their immediate response to it. And then, as the president acknowledged, they didn't respond to fans until BlizzCon.
Yeah.
They literally just went very quiet on a standpoint of someone who loves Overwatch. They even delayed launches of things. They canceled the launch event for Overwatch on the Switch at the Nintendo store in New York to avoid having Blizzard personnel on site without having addressed the situation, which was really shitty of them because now Nintendo has really cooled on Overwatch on the Switch. It's why I don't own it because they did their mandatory advertising and they dropped it.
And Anti-Klaus, you point out that people forget quickly, and we'll get to reasons for that in a minute. Corporations don't forget quite so quickly. Nintendo can hold a grudge. Nintendo can hold a grudge
forever,
Nintendo
and they
can
will
hold a grudge. In the case of Bendy's advocate on the part of Blizzard, we will say basic human decency versus Blizzard. The gavel comes down. Basic human decency win. Blizzard was in the wrong. I want to figure out some sort of bust or something for the aviators to go into because I have nothing for them.
Can I get eyes in chat if you agree with that ruling? But BlizzCon, after that
did bring
half-ass apology, did then continue. There were protesters out front of it, and they even acknowledged that in a smarmy comment before the apology, he goes "Oh, I heard many of you this morning." Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Thanks, pal.
Yeah. You're a peach.
I do. because I'm a very big fan of Overwatch and I play it daily, and every single Friday at the AM314, Jeff Kaplan, the president of the part that handles Overwatch,
Okay.
came out against the Blitzchung suspension. Came out against Blizzard's actions and things like that, in a personal and in a public way.
Yep.
Thank you.
There was
As someone whose fandom greatly hinges upon the fact that it is tied into Activision Blizzard, thank you, because now I don't have to have that moral will they, won't they, should I stream this game.
Yeah, there was a
tied
fair
into
amount of people coming out who were developers or owners of development teams who came out and said, hey, these are times when we were approached by this for the Chinese market or something like that. And, I said no, and I lost out on this 7-digit number of dollars for that. But I kept my moral integrity, so it's interesting to see where people fell there. But, so Overwatch. More than just the guy coming out and saying things, there was news about Overwatch at Blizzcon. I do want to wrap up our coverage of Blizzcon. We're going to go slightly over an hour today. We've got a couple things that we're going to come back to later, but I do want to wrap up our Blizzcon coverage. So, wow, we talked a long time. We got to learn to keep Bendy's advocate down a little shorter. Anyway, Overwatch 2.
Overwatch 2 was announced. No concrete release date, and no, full game, here it is. It was, hey, here's what we're going with. Here's a good chunk of the product, and this is what it's going to be.
Yeah, there was demos
forward.
and there was a roadmap, really solid. Like, they weren't saying we're shipping this year, we're shipping soon. Haha, Blizzard soon. But they said, hey, here's what we've got brought up on this here. Overwatch 2 slightly annoys me.
Really?
Because it is the big thing they're saying with Overwatch 2 is that it's got single player stuff, and the multiplayer advances that are brought to Overwatch 2 are going to be brought to Overwatch 1 as well. And I see no reason whatsoever.
The multiplayer advances will not.
So the single player stuff will be brought to. Okay,
No.
Sorry. Explain it to me, because
So the
what
way
I had
it works
heard
is Overwatch 2. I, as someone with a copy of Overwatch on 2 consoles, over close to 1,000 hours now between everything put into it, will be able to have all of my skins, all of my emotes, all the things that I have unlocked, all of my hours, all of my stats will cross into Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2 itself is going to have PvE modes. That's going to be the main chunk of the game. The thing that everyone's been crying for and wanting more story, now we're getting it. PvP is going to have a new mode called Push. It's going to be a lot like, the escort, but it's going to be a different element and things like that. That's not going to be... Those two things are going to be exclusive to Overwatch 2.
Okay.
But when they add new characters and when they add new maps, those are going to be given backwards to the people playing on the original Overwatch.
And it's a different game model than the one that I prefer. What I like is what Elite Dangerous did, which is this is the base game.
Yeah.
And so eventually they would come out with seasons of content that would enrich the gameplay. And what they would do with each season is that they would have new ships, and those would come up for people with the base game.
Yeah.
They would have new storyline events that would happen for people with the base game, but something like Planetary Landing, or Fleet Carriers, or Wings would be for people who pay for the season content. Now, it was a $60 game, Elite Dangerous. For a season might be $20 or $30. Not a full $60 cost for a new game, when basically it still operates with a lot of stuff going back to the base game. So billing it as Overwatch 2 when you're already... I like that they're doing a bunch of things. They have this new development roadmap, and they are bringing stuff back to Overwatch 1, so it's not just like a dead, totally fragmented thing. I do like that, but I think it's disingenuous to call it a sequel, Overwatch 2, and to charge another full $60 for it. I think that they could have gone with the season gameplay release model.
Although I think that would have added them into a very muddy section of, oh, look, you're joining the bandwagon of everyone else releasing seasons and passes. And hating on that.
And I was a little bit against Elite Dangerous doing it, but how much they released for the base game, I got to pick a la carte. Yes, I want planetary landing, and I want wings, and I want the ability to carry a starfighter around. I don't care about this thing, and I don't care about that thing. I got to choose a la carte what I wanted.
I'm really looking forward to the story mode, and I have a feeling that welcome Demon Dragon. As much as I suck at shooters, if there's going to be an Overwatch story mode, I may pick it up. To be honest, I think that's what's going to, my fandom aside, going to rationalize what could be a $60 price tag. I don't think they officially announced anything about how much it's going to cost.
That's true. It could be Overwatch 2 for $39.99.
Dan's favorite cost of a game. Watch the old Behind the Counter episodes, by the way.
There will be in-jokes.
There's going to be a lot of in-jokes about that, and you would definitely love them.
You heard it. You heard it here first. Overwatch 2 is not a real game if it comes out at $39.99.
And I'm actually kind of okay with that because, first of all, of the people who actively work in the store, I'm gonna play it, and then people are going to smartly not buy it and then just ask me what was the story element, because they know that I'm a really animated person, and I'm going to be like, well, first of all, let me get my props. Here we go. At first, there was darkness, and then
like an
Sorry,
extra,
Bismarck, didn't mean to knock you over.
Yeah, like an extra improv theater version of just watching the Let's Play on YouTube.
Exactly. But another game was announced at BlizzCon. So Overwatch 2, super hyped about it. Thank you, Papa Jeff, for the second game. Also, thank you, Blizzard, for letting all of my stuff cross into the new title, because you very easily could have said, well, everyone's pissing and moaning about how old this game is, so it's old to you now, right? You don't have a new game?
I think they looked at Team Fortress 2 and they were like, that's still going 15 years later and people still have all their stuff. We need to at least do that. Another game came out, and this was the first thing after the apology was Diablo 4's announcement. It is dark. It is gothic. It is really creepy and looks so gorgeous.
It is exactly what Blizzard needed to announce to make all of those angry people on the interwebs entirely drop the May memes, entirely drop the Blitzchung thing, and
or at least forget about it for a few days. So I am a big fan of Diablo. That is to say, Diablo 1, the first game, the dark fantasy, the demonic everything. Diablo 2 was nice. It had a good engine, but it didn't feel quite as dark to me. Diablo 3, I literally only played once. I plan to play it again for Let's Play on my channel because I've done that with Diablo and with Diablo 2. I just haven't gotten there. There's a lot of loud people out there. I hope you guys can hear me just fine.
I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do this for Jen. Boater, play Diablo 3.
I will. I will. One thing when Diablo 3 came out was that a lot of people were like, oh, it looks too bright and happy. And it didn't exactly, but Blizzard owned that and sold the Unicorn Diablo 3 merch and stuff like that. Nobody said a peep of that with Diablo 4. It starts out with its announced cinematic of a bunch of tomb hunters reawakening Lilith as the blood is sucked out of them to summon her. Oh my gosh, it just looks fantastic. In the actual gameplay, there will be 5 classes at launch, just like there were with previous games. The 3 that they showed off are the Barbarian, the Sorceress, and the Druid, all returning classes from previous games. So I expect that there's going to be at least one brand new class that they aren't quite there on the development yet to be able to show, because they don't want to show something and then not have it appear the same way in the final game. The 5 classes that they're working on there, and they said, it's not coming soon. It's not even coming like Blizzard soon, haha. This is something that is still in the somewhat early stages of development. This has been through development hell and back again. It's been going all over the place. So it is going to be some time until we actually get Diablo 4. So I will have time to record Diablo 3 for my YouTube channel before it comes out. Hopefully. We'll see. Knock on the nearest, There we go. But I was looking at some of the stuff that is announced for Diablo 4 and things that they've talked about, and my excitement cooled off a little bit. They are doing an online shared world. It's basically going to be an MMORPG. Like, the atmosphere of Diablo for me is this creepy, lonely thing. It's you versus the forces of hell.
It's you versus the devil.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Maybe you and a friend, just in case you want someone to scream with when you get the bejesus scared out of you. But, you know, one of the reasons that I haven't done Diablo 3 in a while is that I like playing these games for the story, not for the end game content or anything like that. And I know that playing with my sister's boyfriend, he just plays through for the gameplay, not for the story. So, like, it would be immersion breaking for me, for him to be running around, just do this, that bing, 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 and go off and do things when I'm trying to, you know, listen to the characters, stay a while and listen. I would be happy to. Other people wouldn't. And so in an online shared world where they have a shared overworld for the game, there's going to be so many people just running around doing their thing, and I'm like, there's an army here versus the forces of hell. Do I matter? No. Diablo is one of those typical fantasy stories where you are the only thing that stands between the world's destruction, between humanity and the world's destruction. And even then, you don't really manage to pull it off.
So it runs back to that old, hey, you got World of Warcraft in my Diablo. Hey, you got Diablo in my World of Warcraft.
That's exactly it. Like, it's going to be a shared overworld, and then the dungeons are going to be instanced for you, and if you have your party, for them to go in there. But there is no offline play. And I'm going to go back to Elite Dangerous, which I brought up when we were talking Overwatch, in that originally they said that there would be no solo offline play. And eventually what they changed it to is that it still needs to be connected because it has kind of like a shared economy and everything like that, but you can play it in solo mode so that you don't run into other players. But even if you do play that in public where you run into other players and griefers, then like it is still the kind of game where there's other commanders going around, and it makes perfect sense for them to be there. And to me, it wouldn't make sense for that in the atmosphere of Diablo. So right now they're saying there is no offline solo play. So what I'm hoping that they eventually do is do what Frontier did with Elite, and that is to cave and say, okay, it needs to be online because reasons, which didn't work well for SimCity. I'm looking at you, SimCity. It didn't work. We need to be online because reasons. People notice when they smell BS. So I'm hoping they at least say, well, it needs to be online because reasons, but you can play totally solo and not have other maniacs running around your game. I hope that's what they do.
What are we making fun of SimCity?
Yeah.
Great game.
Oh, City Skylines is better. Yeah, and in another instance...
You know what? Can you push up your glasses and say that one more time?
City Skylines is better. And I guess just one more instance of World of Warcraft getting in my Diablo is that there are mounts. Because the overworld is going to be a huge world, I think you're in the entirety of Sanctuary. You're able to go all over the place. And so you can hop on a mount, get on a horse, and go from place to place. Demon Dragon points out that D3 had to be played online as well, noting the dreaded Error 37 when you couldn't connect to servers upon release of the game, but you could still play solo. Yes, you had to be connected online, but you could still play it without other people running around your game. And I hope that they cave and do the same thing with Diablo 4. That is the only thing that has me really nervous about this right now, because everything else looks so good. Oh my gosh, like looking at the gameplay of it, looking at the cinematics they made, they know the aesthetic that I want it to go for. They know what Diablo should be as compared to other fantasy games, and they are nailing it.
So are you hyped about Diablo? Are you still, after all that, Diablo, is that gonna do it for you? Are you definitely gonna get it?
If it comes out with no ability to turn off connected multiplayer, then it will not be a day one release for me. I will read reviews and see how much of an impact that is on the actual gameplay in storyline and everything like that. But if they cave and they say, no, we're totally going to let you play solo and let you have that creepy crawly you versus the devil atmosphere, day one. Especially if they have a really cool collector's edition, which they will because it's Blizzard and it's Diablo.
I can say without a doubt, I will be purchasing Overwatch 2 the day it comes out, and in some cases I will be purchasing it on multiple systems. Because the video that you got for it, the gameplay that they showed off, and the fact that the opening preview had Reinhardt in it, my boy! God! Cannot wait. Character redesigns, all these things. Super, super, super excited for it. Blizzard, you still petty. You still suck. You leave Papa Jeff alone.
Demon Dragon points out that Diablo 4 sounds like it'd play like Dragon's Nest, which is what it reminded me of, but I didn't think I'd bring that up because I don't think anyone else is going to recognize a Korean MMO. But that was a game that had where the towns were shared and you could see people running all over the place. Yeah. And then when it came time to leave the town and to go into dungeons, it was just you and your party. Or actually, you could leave the town, but they'd still be shared areas. Then when you went to dungeons, it was you and your party. Dragon Nest has a cartoony enough atmosphere that even though the storyline that is all told just in text and not voiceover, barely any cutscenes, even though the storyline is somewhat serious, it's a cartoony atmosphere and it worked well for that kind of always online thing. Diablo won't.
Do you think... So I know that Overwatch, they have done so many elements of what's going to be in the next game that they have tested it, they know what it's going to look like, they know how to program it.
They're a lot closer to releasing Overwatch 2 than they are to Diablo 4.
That they're going to learn from Diablo's heritage and WoW's heritage, because they're clearly Reese's Piecesing that thing, or Reese's Peanut Butter Cupping it together. Do you think that Diablo 4...
There's definitely a family shrub thing going on here.
Yeah. Do you think that they will learn and the product will be, a direct influence of here's what we succeeded on, here's what we need to avoid?
Well,
do you think that they're able to pull that off for Diablo 4?
I think so, even if it's not right at release. Diablo 3's thing was that at release it was fine, but it has gotten so much better since then. And I think that Diablo 4 is going to be something similar. Even if if all the reviews are like, I'm not getting the creepy crawly what I want out of it, it's not going to be that hard for them to add just don't show any of the other players. Like, even if their code is no, they need to be running around, just flip a switch that turns them off.
Just hire Hello Game Studios who made No Man's Sky. Boom!
Wow. Let's see, I know... Do you want to try to get to this topic tonight, or shall we leave that for some other time? Because that kind of relates back to what we were talking about with Blizzard. I think we can leave it.
We'll put a pin in that.
Yeah, we're running certainly a little longer than we wanted to, but we've hit that hour. In the future, again, next week, Insane Games TV launches. And we will have a timetable that we got to stick to, and we got to have a 5-minute warning to turn it over to somebody else. I think
Dan will just pull the stool out from under me, and the stream will be all
yeah, I'll laugh at you, and then the one goes out from under me. Boom, we're done. But yeah, I guess just really quick to recap what happened today is Insane Games TV is launching. I'm Boater. That's Dave. Blizzard's dumb, but they're doing cool things. Do you have anything more to add, or?
I look forward to this program. I look forward to Insane Games TV as a network launching, and it is not possible without you, the viewer. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, ask questions, be a part of the programs.
Tune into, even if you have just one program that you want to tune into, please show up for that one. But feel free to pop in on multiple other programs as well. There's going to be so much cool stuff that's coming out on Insane Games TV. Again, next week with the full schedule launching. Really psyched for it.
It is going to be something that we as a people are not going to have experienced before. And I'm very excited for it. The personalities, the people on this are all going to give their all in regards to this network. And so I want you guys, as people that have watched my programs and know my work, to know that I am indescribably excited to know that the people who are involved with this are going to be getting mic time, that are going to be getting screen time, that are going to be getting to talk about the things that they want to talk about for the span of time that they have, because it's going to be fun no matter what program is on. It's going to be interactive. It is going to be exactly what we in 2019, soon to be 2020, need in a Twitch network. It's going to be diverse, it is going to be different, and it is going to be fun.
Thank you so much for watching tonight on the Nerd Glasses podcast. To everyone that has popped into chat and said hello, we look forward to making you guys an interactive part of this podcast in the future. And we will see you next week. Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. or thereabouts. We got the schedule. It's going to be published next week when we launch. And we'll see you then. Otherwise, you can catch this guy tomorrow
at DAM314, Twitch.tv, and here at Insane Games TV. We're going to be playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. We're also going to be having on BB Wakes, and he's going to talk about the Smash Bros. Tournament that's happening in Saratoga Springs. Make sure to tune in tomorrow.
And you can see both of us tomorrow on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoaterBug, with the finale episode of Boater Plays Something Recore featuring Dave Mann.
For all of us at Insane Games TV,
Boater,
I'm Dave Mann, and we'll see you next time.
Peace!